The people making Monaco take the mic. I'm Nancy Heslin, and welcome to Monaco Info, the podcast. Our guest today is a World War II veteran who enlisted in the U.S. Army after Pearl Harbor in 1942. Fluent in several languages, he was assigned to the Army Intelligence Services, collecting intel from radio intercepts and POW interrogations. The sergeant ended the war in northern Italy, sleeping in Mussolini's bed after capturing the dictator's villa. Post-war, his career at Pan American World Airlines spanned 45 years and included a stint as director in Nice, which is how he developed a close friendship with Prince Rainier and Princess Grace. The honorary godfather to Prince Albert comes to Monaco every year to celebrate his birthday with His Serene Highness. Meet 104-year-old Max Gurney. Max, thank you so much for coming to Monaco Info, the podcast, to share your story. I'm truly honored. I remember the first time I heard your name, Max Gurney. It was someone in the American Club of the Riviera, and they said, oh, this former executive of Pan Am is here to celebrate his 100th birthday. And here you are in Monaco celebrating your 104th with His Serene Highness Prince Albert. Is this a long-standing tradition, the birthday celebrations?
Well, we had luncheons outside Monaco. And in Monaco proper, I think we had 3 luncheons, yeah.
I think listeners are probably wondering, how does an American World War II intelligence officer who served in 4 campaigns between 1942 and 1945, how does this person end up having lunch with the Prince of Monaco? And I think for that, we need to start at the beginning. So let me ask you, you were born on June 10th, 1921 in Frankfurt, Germany. Your mother was Russian. Your father was an American, and he was a lawyer and a diplomat who worked with the United States mission involved in negotiating the Versailles Treaty between the Central Powers and the Allied powers that ended World War I. My first question is, how did your parents meet?
Good question, yes.
At that time, that's an interesting... you're in Germany, your mother's Russian, and your father's American.
Yeah. Well, the reason was... circumstantial, as my father was working here with the High Inter-Allied Commission, not here but in Germany, and my mother had escaped the Bolsheviks, the communists, in 1917, and they found each other. But in the modern life of that time already, the beginning was turbulent.
Oh, I imagine.
But it finished very well, and I was in Germany for just about a month and a half, and my father was moving quite often to England and also to Switzerland. So they assigned me a new post, the first post in Switzerland, yeah.
So were you educated in Switzerland?
That's the beginning, yes. I had a few years in Switzerland in winter time, good skiing, but the French Riviera was already attractive at that time.
So you then ended up, as I understand, going to high school in New York, in the United States?
Yeah, that's right. We moved back to New York in the early 30s, and... I went to school. I don't know if you're familiar with New York.
A little bit. I'm a Canadian, but I do know York.
From which part of Canada?
I grew up in Toronto. I was born in Montreal, but grew up in Toronto.
Congratulations, and I like it.
Thank you. Me too. Me too. You go ahead. You grew up in New York?
In New York, and I was going to school, and at the age of 18 and 20, I had a number of friends, and we were not excellent students. I probably was the last one of the best students, which, but we moved quite a bit within our framework. We occasionally went to Pennsylvania, but it was a long trip. And finally, when in December of 1941, when the bomb exploded, we felt very united in school already. There was a fantastic change in not only in politics, in actions, but in thinking, particularly in the young generation. And as I said, my luck was that I was part of a group of 15, 20 students that felt the necessity and the vigor to find ways to get into the military service.
Well, this is where it's interesting because, in fact, you're a very accomplished human being, but there's not a lot that I can find in research. I read one story that said you went to the movies with your friends, and when you came out, you learned about the bombing and decided, we're going to enlist. Is that true?
Yes.
More or less?
It's true. It's a fact, but what you said, it's an actual fact. I forgot I remember the name of the movie house I went to, but I don't remember what I saw. But I remember the first sight with my friends were the headlines of the newspapers, and that was striking, And we didn't expect it, really.
I'm fascinated, and I'm not alone. People are fascinated by stories of World War II. It's our last major war, and as uncertainty and instability grows in the world, we talk more and reflect on those stories. As a young person reading that headline, and you say that basically everything changed in your generation, did you feel suddenly a sense of patriotism that maybe you hadn't felt before, or a reason to enlist because of that? Can you explain the feeling of what happens when you...
Well, I think your words are truthful because I think I lived in a group and in the society too in New York. There was a slow but definite reaction in the sense that there was danger, A lot of people, as you probably know, were not necessarily happy, but the majority of the country, as I saw it and my surroundings, was a sense of unity and decision, and how things were slow. My own desire with my friends to be into the military was very softened up by the time we went to see at the draft board. You said, we want to enlist, and are we ready? So the guy said, oh, thank you very much, and your names, but take your time, we will call you.
Really?
So there was that idea.
How long was it then from the time that you wanted to enlist until they called you?
Well, it took several months.
Really?
Yeah, and all the time we were based in New York. I say all my friends were from New York, the Bronx, the Queens. So we had, the draft board was on the General Electric building in New York, and it was very well operated. But it took, as you asked me, it took several months before. One day they called us at the draft board, and they said, on such and such a day, 2 or 3 days later, please be ready because we will transfer you to Fort Dix, which was across the river.
Just like that?
Just like that. And then things moved very quickly. We all went to Fort Dix. We were inducted with several actions, weapons instruction and vaccination. And at the end of the day, we were given hospitality there, and the lights were, like in the army, turned out at 9 p.m.
Wow.
So, at 9 p.m., I remember everybody was almost asleep, except one guy from Brooklyn got up and he said, fellows, we don't have to go overseas. We are overseas. And I thought it was very hilarious, if you like to. But it was very symptomatic of the feeling that we had that, we wanted to go, but there challenges in front of us.
The reality of going is very different than feeling I want to go.
Exactly.
And so you take a weapon for the first time and you're learning all of the military protocol. Did you have a fear of I might die, or was it just exciting? Was it you felt it was the right thing to do?
Well, I didn't have it, but I felt that some of my colleagues had more fear than others. I had fear, but sort of distant. I was optimistic, as I have been since, and said, well, we'll see what happens, but maybe there was a little bit of fear within us in various degrees, yeah.
And your father, being a diplomat himself, was he encouraging for you to join the war?
Yeah, my father was very much keen to sort of follow that line. Mothers acted differently, but patriotically they understood, and I didn't have any scenes at the time of my leaving.
Did you have siblings?
I had no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did you go after that?
Well, I started actually, my first basic training was to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Very nice surroundings. That looking backwards, it was the beginning to find out how the army works, you know. Mm-hmm. Hurry up and wait. It was one of the mottos. But things were moving rapidly. And after that, from Bragg, I had artillery training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, mm-hmm. which I liked very much. We could go into town and have a good time, but very serious. And then from then, I think somebody found out that I was in the wrong place. I liked it. I had radio experience at that time, very primitive, but still existing. And so that within 20 days, I was assigned to Camp Shenango, I believe the name is, near Pittsburgh. And then from then it was very quick. We were selected, and some of us were asked to board a Canadian LST, mm-hmm. a very small ship, crowded to capacity. I mean, mm-hmm. at night it was comfortable, but in the daytime, yes. And the only good feature, I thank you, because it was a Canadian, and we had rum.
Oh, there we go.
At 10 o'clock. That changed the whole app.
In the morning or at night?
In the morning, yeah.
If I can just ask you, you volunteered to go into the Army. As a young man, you're 20 years old at the time?
Yeah.
As a young man at 20 years old, you volunteered to go in the Army, and all of a sudden you're living by someone else's very strict rules.
Yes.
Did you find that easy to adjust to? Did you question that decision after, thinking, I can't live in this structure? Or did it suit you, the structure?
Well, to answer your question, yes, I was annoyed.
Okay.
But adapted to the temper, we felt that, in addition, I say, we were not really very, very well trained, but we all had a sense of responsibility, so that I should say the majority of the military society I lived in from the very beginning was amazing, yes. As a matter of fact, we learned from them how to behave, yes.
And so then joining the Signal Intelligence Service, was that looked upon as something that was quite prestigious? Or was that just your branch of the military that you were assigned to?
I was actually compelled to. It was directed by the higher-ups, and when we got to Algiers, that's where we mm-hmm. landed, and there was a big change in perspectives and attitude, and I felt that locally there was already a sense of great attraction to see American troops liberating that part of France that had been sometimes over-occupied by the enemy. And the response continued, so that in my own career with the unit, or I was not in the unit in Algiers, I was moved to headquarters, G2, that's where I was immediately introduced to that signal intelligence unit that was created by Americans, but on the pattern of the British intelligence. As a matter of fact, one of the first few days, we had immediate contact with the Brits. And we worked very often together in some major missions. And I want you to know that it was a unit of only about 22, 23 men. And we had a counterpart, the same unit, with the same purpose, was on the Pacific side. That was also very active and instrumental in some of the major wartime issues that came about, like killing the president of Japan in wartime.
I have so many questions. So,
well,
so let me ask first
you
of all.
provoked me.
No, this is amazing. So first of all, when we see a movie about warships approaching enemy territory and the men on board, it's a movie, so it's a bit dramatic. But for you on board, where you say, it's not exactly comfortable by day and maybe at night it's okay. When you approach enemy territory on a warship, what's happening on the ship? What's the emotion on the ship? Are you all just thinking in your own heads? You've never been to war. What is happening in your minds?
Well, it's a very collective question, And I remember what happened in my mind.
Please tell me.
Yeah. But I think collectively, again, being young, I suppose, and with different natures, we still managed to have this sense of duty. And though we had very little military experience in my group, I think there was, some reaction and some words, that continued to go on after the war. But that is what really gave me a lot of courage to see how the others were taking it with subdued intentions, but anyhow, understanding the change from civilian life to military life.
And again, so you're working in a unit of 20 or 22 people in the intelligence service.
Yeah.
Do you create a special bond?
Yes.
And
yes.
Do you understand the nature of what you're doing?
Yes.
Can you really, in context at 20 years old?
Yeah, the answer, even in a small society of 22 men with a good commander, we had a very close relationship. But like in any society, we had tendency to be friends with some of us, there were differences,
I would imagine.
They say, he's a friend of so-and-so, So there was a lot of continuity in our life that was precedent to it,
And what did you actually do, if you can describe to listeners, what was your intelligence service? You were listening on receivers?
Yeah, well, it was a complex situation, and listening, the idea was to intercept messages from what the enemy is saying. We were very close to the front, so that we could, when there was no battle, there was some sort of calm. It was very difficult to find out what the enemy was going to do and where it was. But the moment you had, of course, an action up front, even limited, people start talking. Even the Germans, very, very attentive about their security, were much more at ease to speak, and we could intercept a lot of their messages, voice messages. So the capture of the message, that was our role because it was at 70% it was in German, but there were a lot of non-German troops fighting us. You know, there were Russians, there were Greeks, you name it, French, you know. We were on both sides. On our side was even richer. Yeah. But anyhow, at the time of the receipt of any message, it was very interesting because often the technician that was listening in did not speak the language, and so he had a soldier next to him that did the helping, and another one. It wasn't a trio that really tried to arrive at a conclusion. And briefly, if I can, all this could not be relayed to after the war ended for about 10 years, but then there was a big change. We would talk more about what you ask, and it was very interesting because our task was to try to really come to the bottom of it. Sometimes we couldn't. So within 12 hours or 6 hours, depending on the location and advantages we had to send it both to Washington and to Bletchley in London. Yeah.
Did you feel a very heavy sense of responsibility?
Yes, I think the responsibility was it sort of grown with not only with the reception of messages, but particularly learning tete-a-tete with the enemy. You know, we had officers most of the time, and they were reserved and very patriotic, but they were sometimes human too, you know. And just to have a personal feeling, my interpretation of the war at that time in North Africa, that among the officers of the German army, although they were fighting very hard, they knew that the end was coming, that the things had changed, that it wasn't anymore the victory after victory, and things were changing, and it started in North Africa a little bit, yeah.
Did you ever intercept any information that straight away you knew this was really big, this is monumental, and compared to maybe just listening all the time? Did you personally ever have anything that was like, oof, this is a good piece of data?
The unit did, and may I cite in order the Pacific unit that was capital in intercepting a message in the Pacific that declared that there was an admiral in charge of it, was flying from one point to the other, Rabaul, I remember the destination. We compared notes to answer your question. So briefly, what it ended with our own Air Force shutting down the enemy and killing him. This was number one man in the military field in Japan. So I cite that as a monumental victory for the type of work we were doing.
And you celebrated?
Yeah, in a way, yes. Afterwards, probably.
Because there has to be some human level at war, like you said, right? So what is the camaraderie that builds amongst you?
But in wartime, except when we were out on our own, we didn't have too much celebration. Yeah.
And you didn't have leave at all in the time that you served?
No, we didn't.
And so you served as a member of General Patton. Did you meet General Patton?
I listened to him, yes.
You listened to him. What did that teach you about? He's an iconic figure. What did that teach you?
Well, you probably, I may be repetitious.
That's okay.
He was not very much liked. He had his own temper and his own approach, but everybody revered him at that time. The thing that I remember that stuck to my mind, he was a visionary. He could see in advance what we should do, and he was very determined to do it. As I said briefly, in my unit opinion, it was that if he had not slapped the soldier in Sicily, he would have remained and would have landed in northern Italy. Probably at that time it was considered that it would have shortened the war by 1 year, because the movement had been already accomplished with the first mission that was going from Africa into Europe 1 year before Normandy, which was not very much appreciated by the high command in the United States. In the United States, generally the thinking was that we should go into France from England, period, forget the rest. But with the British approach, and many of our own generals, and Eisenhower particularly, were keen to establish a fighting front in the Mediterranean. And we kept the Germans very much alive because they didn't know where we were going to land.
So where did you go from North Africa, from Tunisia? Where did you go?
Well, from the first landing was a very quick mission to Sicily. Very well structured, all in preparation for Normandy. On a minor scale, we had tremendous losses from our own Air Force in the landing period. The landing was on July 7, 1944. And initially, the combined forces had a lot of suffering. The Navy had. But on land, once on land, we were very swift. The general at that point was General Patton, as you know, and he really moved very fast. And he was ahead of the British in getting to the other side of the island. The whole campaign lasted 33 days. My unit was very happy because we were stationed outside Palermo, a little bit.
I've been to Palermo.
That's right.
Beautiful.
And we were very lucky because after the 33 days, we were free, and all the Sicilian students, both men and women, were in that same area. So we had very friendly relations.
May I ask, how did civilians welcome American military?
Well, very warmly, as I said. I got in touch with a Sicilian studentess of my age at that time, blonde, with blue eyes, and I liked the beach.
Say no more, say no more.
So did my friends, yeah. We were lucky because while the others, our unit did not participate. You know, what happened at the end of the war in Sicily is that all of a sudden Italians surrendered. There was chaos on both parts. They totally unprepared, command, patterned out of the control of things. So our unit had a respite of about 4 months.
Okay.
We stayed in Sicily, as a matter of fact.
For 4 months?
Within 4 months after the capitulation in Sicily, we landed in near Naples. And that was a very, very the important battle, because the Germans really put it up. And eventually, as you know, it expanded, the beachhead. We had 2 beachheads, but the Germans kept us for the whole winter and summer until May of 44, when we finally liberated Rome, But to answer your question, at all times, Italians were very happy to see us for many reasons. Well, because the Germans were not very easy with Italians. And number 2, they had more food and cigarettes. You know, we were very popular with cigarettes.
When you are in for the winter, spring, summer, I mean, it's just monotony? Do you lose hope? Do you feel like, is this ever going to end?
Yes, you had that, yeah, that was how long it takes, yeah. The story goes that I was on a jeep with a friend of mine on the outskirts of Rome, and finally General Clark appeared. Mm-hmm. And we both said, "Why did it take you so long?" That's a little parenthesis, but it sort of reflects. It did take time. It was swift, but it did take time to get to Rome, and then it was very quick.
Your mind is so quick to think about memories. You must have moments when you look back over their years. Yeah. Could you share one or two stories that really just stand out at any point, the time that you served?
Yes, I have, because my unit stayed in Rome a very short time, but because of my linguistic advantage, with a friend of mine, we went to see the Pope.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I hope you're Catholic, but anyhow, it was our primary target after the Colosseum and everything else. We want to see something meaningful. So we were received by the Pope. Yeah, it lasted a very short time, but it was the first contact. The Pope at that time.
What did that signify? What did that mean for you? Especially at that moment.
Especially, even among the non-Catholics, there was a respect, a distant respect, but among the Catholics in my group, there was a strong feeling too, and it was probably the climax of the war sometimes. Yeah.
Religion played such a different part in our lives during the time that we're talking about. Were the men religious in the war? Not necessarily having to pray, but feeling that they needed to pray.
Yes, there was a need, and there was, even among the ones that were more distant about religion, there was strong participation. Yeah, very helpful.
And how did your military service end in 1945? You were part of the team that captured Mussolini's villa. Was that correct?
Yeah, well, our unit, it was it lasted from, this was already the beginning of 1945, the end of the war. As you know, we liquidated more or less the Germans. The Germans had their own military control in Italy, and the man in charge was an SS man. He killed a lot of Italians, but he also asked for an armistice one day before the big boys met in France, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but in terms of military advance, yes, we pushed very quickly. We went to the Lake of Garda. I don't know if you're are you familiar with the area? Yes. Because that was the center, the capital of fascism. Mussolini
his castle,
it,
yes.
Yeah. And he had a villa that belonged actually to an Italian publisher called Feltrinelli, very famous, very nice villa. And General Clark assigned us this villa. We were very happy, yes. And I was assigned Mussolini's bedroom, yes, an empty room, except for the letterhead. I found some letterhead.
No.
And it was written Il Duce,
Yeah.
So I thought I would write this to my father, who was in Washington at that point. He never received it.
I guess not.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, and I thought, you must remember that moment your whole life, thinking, I'm in Mussolini's room alone.
Yeah. The only thing I'm proud of is that he was still alive. He was trying to escape from Milan.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what was it like for you to know the war was over and you were going home?
Yeah, that feeling, you're like a psychoanalyst. But, when the end of the war was announced, we were all very happy to go home. But some units, including ours, considered essential for the continuity, were destined to go to Japan.
Wow.
So they gave us an extra month of free time in Italy, and then we embarked in Naples, slow boat to China. Thank you very much, because we stopped in New York. And on that day, the bomb was dropped. So the war was over for us.
Wow. Wow.
That was sensational.
I can't imagine. What happens to somebody that is serving in World War II? You're listening in, trying to intercept intel. You're living with this band of brothers. You're completely away from the world you know. Adrenaline, excitement, terror, maybe going to die, maybe going to have another day. And then you have to go back and be a civilian.
Well, it's a collective question, yeah. I don't know if I can talk for myself. There is always a little bit of fear, and it depends on the individual, man or woman, because women were very important.
But for you personally, going back and trying to build a life, what did that look like? How it couldn't have been easy just to adjust to, well, maybe to the comfortable bed and the lifestyle, but figuring out what you're going to do with your life.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think of the military of my age at that time that were even up to 25. Well, I had I'll tell you, very personal situation, because when the war was over, I had the choice to go back to school. I really didn't have any college education, and I conferred with my father, and I finally, maybe I weakened up, because I said, I like to move. You know, that's the sensation I had in the army. And with some other veterans, we had an offer from Pan American World Airlines. At that time, it was a mystery to us, but it had a big name. Yep. So we briefly, we were interviewed at the Marine Terminal in New York by a very nice lady, and she was very friendly, and she had offered us a job, and the job consisted, she said, that we were needed very badly because of our experience, because Pan Am was losing considerable amount of luggage. Worldwide, not only in New York, worldwide. There was pilferage, stealing, appearances. Anyhow, the poor customers pay the price because they didn't get what they had to start with.
But how did she think that?
Well, that was our task. She
Army
said,
sergeants.
We will give you 3 months to, straighten up a little bit. And we tried our best. And maybe communications were poor, because we had established a pattern to control the luggage in the United States where we operated, particularly in New York, New Orleans, and Washington, because Pan Am was always on the outskirts. But to go overseas, where we had most of the time more local, with deference to the locals that sometimes were very good, they had no experience and language and communication problem. So anyhow, what happened in our life, a brief life with Pan American as a baggage supervisor, she said to us, I'm sorry, we are losing more luggage than before, but we found jobs for you. So I got about 3 years of training in New York, 2.5 years, And by the end of 48, 49, I was given a post in West Africa, in Dakar. That was my first.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And because Pan Am had just started about a year before, all propeller airplanes. Probably you don't know them. But
I do.
You do?
Yes.
Anyhow, we inaugurated with Constellation, if you remember the airplane, the first link within South Africa via French West Africa. And it was a very busy station because we had a Pan American division called Panair do Brasil.
Okay.
And it was an American institution, American crews, American airplanes. It was all American, under the guise of, it was green instead of blue.
Okay.
And they were coming from South America to Europe or to the Middle East via Dakar, all of them. So we were very busy. We had airplanes, and we experienced, at that time, this was we had already started around the world daily flights.
Wow.
Yeah, you could go from New York to Los Angeles all in Pan Am, or New York, San Francisco, but not within the country. You know, we were always, Pan Am was heavily penalized because of competition and political situation.
So you were in Dakar for how long?
I was in Dakar for 2 years.
Because your career with Pan Am was 45 years?
47, 48 years, yes.
My question for you right now is, when you're doing this in the first few years, obviously it's an exciting time for the airline industry. It's much different than now. Is this something you knew? I'm really good at this. This is where I want to be. Or did you just live your life day by day, kind of, I'm here now, maybe tomorrow will be different?
Well, yeah, I expected to be different. Pan Am was right behind us. I mean, it was such a force, not only just to carry people from one point to the other, but to keep the communities alive and happy.
Where was the longest place you even stayed in all these times?
Well, in Rome, I stayed almost 10 years, yeah.
And did you ever marry? Did you...
Cherchez la femme. Yeah, well, I was very happy, and I thank Pan American. If it hadn't been for Pan American, I met a very attractive, at least to me, English girl from London, from Scotland, yeah. And I had 50 years with her. She passed away 20 years ago, but that was a capital part of my life. And she didn't really, she was very quick, intelligent, ironic often, but pleasantly so. But she didn't even want to move to the United States. She, you know, because we got married in Italy, in Portofino.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And one day when Pan Am came to the end, I said, you know, we have to go home. And she said, where? So I said, New York. He said, I'm not coming.
And did she go?
She
went in the end, yeah.
She even approached, she was a little bit capricious, I would say. But even with, we went to California after, when we left, because our son was there, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to run out of time, and I'm going to bring you back to coming to Nice and being the regional director for Pan Am. What did that job entail here?
Yeah, well, on the 25th of June, we have these 2 Pan Am airplanes that celebrate the anniversary of the first commercial link established by Pan Am, in this case, from the United States to Europe. In Marseille. And that was big celebration. I was here at that time for the 50th anniversary.
Wow.
Now it's going to be the 100th, yeah. So, but anyhow, this post was very important in a way because we had on a type of aircraft we had wasn't too big. I mean, it was propellers. Then we switched to 707.
Wow.
But we always... because we were the only carrier between Nice, Monaco, and Rome on one hand, and Barcelona and Lisbon. There was no other carrier.
Okay.
So we had a tremendous amount of traffic, yeah. And we had long queues, etc.
But this is how you met Prince Rainier and Princess Grace?
Well, yeah, my predecessor, a fellow by the name of Clinton Sewell, and he liked it. He was a bachelor from Texas. He knew how to be a good director and a good monegasque.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, at the beginning, he took me to the prince and he said, this is my successor. So I was introduced by Pan Am, yes. And eventually our personal relationship was very pleasant. We were capital in the transportation of everybody, including the prince and princess. Sometimes took short trips, and there was the way together was via Pan Am. Yeah, that was a privilege we had.
So you would be responsible for making sure their flight was the best it could be.
Yeah, well, exactly. The crews, everybody to be announced, and
because they're flying commercial, so they're still part of. They're not flying private,
yeah.
right? And you met Princess Grace.
Yes, I met Princess Grace, and I know a little bit of the beginning of the romance that started. Yeah, but there was a Father Tucker who wrote a book about his life from Philadelphia. He promoted this encounter between Grace and Rainier. Yeah. And it happened. The only factual story is that, in fact, it developed that Grace Kelly came to Cannes for the festival.
That's right.
And then she was invited to come and see the prince. But the story that happened afterwards sometimes, but human stories that reflect the human errors sometimes. She got to the palace and she was sit down, taken care of by a lot of other people, but Rainier took his time to say hello to her.
That wouldn't go well.
But it shows how love can develop even
despite
adverse conditions. Yeah. So it developed very quickly. Yeah. After that, she was, from what I know, she came over by boat, not by Pan Am.
But for you personally, because in your role in the airline industry and having contact with the prince and princess, it would have been very different than the diplomatic relations they have. Or how would you describe Princess Grace? A lot of people never had the opportunity to meet her.
Yeah. Well, she was altogether a brilliant woman. She had a good mind. She was an accomplished person in my own. She had a tremendous personality. She acquired the attention of her very magnetic husband, but she attracted the population. She was very popular. Yeah, something that she may have done in her youth when she wasn't really a known actress. She mingled with the people, and she really had a lot forceful mental direction to Rainier, who was very capable. I mean, he was a very good businessman all around.
I've also heard he had a very charming presence.
Yes, yeah. He was educated, as you know, in Switzerland and in England. And he reflected, he knew how to behave. He was, very different from Prince Albert, who he reminds me of his mother, yeah.
In the years that you were with Pan Am and taking care of the travel services of Prince Rainier and Princess Grace, were you ever invited to the palace? Were you ever, or was it always just a very professional relationship?
Yeah, well, no, I was with my wife. My wife worked with Princess Grace in the flower business. She organized a very strong group of ladies that were particularly expert with flowers.
In Monaco?
In Monaco, and went overseas, as a matter of fact.
Were they part of the flower competition that the princess created?
Voluntary ladies of any kind, a group of about, very powerful, both at home and overseas, because my wife participated in some of the trips. And one trip that Grace also, I could see how much she was admired, not only local, and when she was in England.
Oh, I imagine.
Well, we went to Ireland and other places, and there were this group was about 30 ladies from Monaco, and captured Ireland and Great Britain, and there were only 2 men One was a Monegasque lawyer, and the other one was me, yes. I always remember, yeah, because at one point it's a little episode, I'm sorry, I'm digressing.
That's okay.
But in Ireland, she was on a coach, and she was going around by herself, escorted, saluting everybody. And the group was there with her, but when she passed in front of the building, she saluted the two men, yeah, with it, you know. Well, she was a good actress and nice.
Did you ever live in Monaco then?
No, I spent, at the beginning, I lived in Nice, because I came here twice, really, you know. I was assigned here, then I went to the Bahamas.
Oh, jeez.
That was different.
Yeah. And did the prince or princess ever have any, let's say, turbulence flying Pan Am, or were they always happy with the service of flying with Pan Am?
Well, you're touching a point now history can be told. A black note for Pan Am. One day, I think the prince called me personally. He said, please take care of my wife, or anybody, somebody said, because she's flying alone from Nice to New York. And the first episode I was present because I think she came with her dog on the airplane. And the stewardess, despite the fact that she was experienced, she said, what is that? It was a small dog. The captain came in and solved everything. That is an easy thing that, and this is a DC-6 airplane with sleepers.
Oh, right. Nice.
So briefly, she boarded here in the early afternoon. The airplane flew to Barcelona and to Lisbon. They got off, and they get on in Lisbon with the sleepers all the way from Lisbon to New York. Well, so Princess Grace waited until she went to her sleeper. And when she opened the curtain, she found somebody there. So she didn't say anything, you know, graciously. She went back to her seat and spent the night on the seat.
She slept sitting or tried.
Well,
Yeah.
now, of course, when she arrived, she called up her husband and said, look, I have had a very bad trip. I couldn't sleep. So he really called me on the telephone. That was my second worst moment of my life. And she had a round-trip ticket on Pan Am. She said, the first thing, endorse the ticket to any carrier, but immediately. So that remained a black spot, but graciously enough, they redeemed after that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, they came back. It took a lot of work for not only for me, but from headquarters and
really,
everybody got involved. Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, Max, and there's so much I want to ask you, but you have a friendship with Prince Albert, and you are considered his honorary godfather, as I understand.
Well, this is not entirely true. Yeah.
Oh, it's not true. You're not an honorary. You're just a friend.
I was here when he was born, the day, but I'm not his godfather.
Not a formal
relationship.
You have a close relationship with him, and you are the Honorary Consul of Monaco in California.
In San Diego, yeah.
Do you have work that you're required to do for them?
We have work. San Diego, and particularly, La Jolla, it's a big center of American medicine.
Okay.
We have very outstanding institutions. So there is an exchange of a certain proportion for a small place like San Diego. Yeah, not small, but important in terms. And many people like to come to California, but and many French people and Monegasque people, the prince has come to
San Diego.
The reason is that there is a strong link, this is very important, between the Musée Oceanographique, very important, and scripts. In scripts, and they were born at the same time.
Okay.
They
Scripps
are older than I am, yeah.
I don't know Scripps.
Scripps is a medical institution.
Okay.
It's a family, very important in the United States and particularly in San Diego. And that's why the prince came over.
Okay.
And as a consul, I have many, well, what I do, I try to, even now, I would like to have Monaco advertising through the local press with, with some magazine trying to get the name because...
For people to come to Monaco?
Come to Monaco, yeah. That's one of my functions and perhaps able to channel them properly.
Do you have a structure to your day? I know we have to wrap this up, but at 104 years old, you're incredible. You have so much energy. I wasn't sure. I've never met anyone that's even 100, let alone 104. I wasn't sure what to expect. You have a lot of energy. You've powered through this whole time. What do you do? Do you have a structure every day?
You made me incredible. Except him, yeah.
No, but you must do something for your brain every day to be...
Well, I like to enjoy life. I'm looking ahead. I rather talk about the future than the past.
What is your future, Max? What do you want for the future? What would you still like to do?
Well, I like to continue to live as it changes. And try to understand and accept it because there are big changes there for anybody that changes from 1 to 4 generations. Yeah.
I mean, you've seen so many things going on, and in your life, I know that you started your career really in the military. Do you actually pay attention now to American politics?
Oh yes, very much.
You're very involved still.
It's part of our life. Yes, and.
So I have to wrap it up. You're going off to celebrate your birthday with His Serene Highness. Max Gurney, what can I say? Thank you for sharing your story. I have so much I would like to ask you, but we don't have the time. I'm truly honored that you were here on Monaco Info, the podcast. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time, the efforts.
You're unbelievable.
And the curiosity, right?
That's right.